Hello, folks. Whoa, that was a little too loud, huh? We are live with Chachi Lopret and John Duke Logan, and we're here to talk about the Beatles and the Come Together show. It's what has become a monthly extravaganza at City Winery. I think it is the first Monday of each month, kind of mostly, and it's a growing thing. It's becoming a thing. It's getting its own momentum, and we're here to talk about the show on Monday night, April 10. Starts at 7. That's doors at 5. Show starts at 7, I think. And there's a method to the madness, and there's a plan for the show, and there's a theme, and we're going to talk all about what's going to go on. I want to see you there. It's enjoyable to see the size of the group that comes each time increasing. It's kind of a love fest, not only for the Beatles, but just getting along. That seems to be the glue, is people coming together for its own sake as well as the Beatles' sake. So, Chachi and John, how you doing, and what's going on Monday?
Well, John, you go first this time because usually I go first.
John Duke Logan, you're up.
That sounds good. No, Bradley. We always want to thank you for being a supporter since day one and helping us with everything. Bradley J is our MC for the night as well. So he's always you always do a great job, Bradley, and
Thank
people love seeing you there. And so every show is different, like you said, Bradley. It's called Come Together, a multimedia Beatles experience. We show rare video clips. There's food, there's wine. I do magic. Every show is completely different, and I try to integrate unique objects into the show. Like last time, I had a signed playing card, end up inside a popcorn wrapper. So that was
Did you see that, Bradley? That last trick.
That stuff that John Duke Logan does is Beatles-oriented magic, and it'll blow you away. It'll blow you away. You will be left wondering, whoa, what happened there? How did he do that?
Well, let me explain to the audience. If you weren't there, he had a deck of cards. He had a random person from the audience, a woman who came up. She picked one card out of a deck of 52, and she signed her name on it, put it back into the deck, and then John had her, and correct me, John had her throw all the cards in the air and hold on to one, whatever it was, and the card wasn't there. And John is such a great actor on stage. He's like, oh my God, I screwed up the trick. At the same time, the show's theme last month was about Beatle movies. So we had a popcorn element. Everyone got, a little, the trivia in a popcorn bag and playing off the movie theme. And John had on stage, sitting on a table, sealed bags of microwave popcorn, right? So the woman throws her cards. The card she signed is nowhere to be found, and John's like, "Oh my God, I screwed up the trick." And then he gives her a unopened package of microwave popcorn, and oh my God, the card she signed is in the sealed bag of microwave popcorn. And I'm like, okay, show's over. I don't
That's
know how
good stuff.
did it.
I'm intrigued. It's very intriguing on how that magic takes place. It's not a trick; it's magic.
Exactly. Every show I try to integrate something a unique sort of object. So last time we had the popcorn, we had a beach ball, we have darts in this show.
A new object. Okay.
Spinner.
Oh, I love spinners.
Yep. So someone's gonna spin it, get a number. We're gonna do something with that. I'm also doing something with all of the Beatles albums. We have the albums right here, so we're doing something with all of their albums because we're talking about all of their number one hits. This show's theme is all their number one hits. So it's gonna be a fun time.
By the way, you are wearing a Come Together T-shirt, which is a T-shirt.
Yes.
Are those available? How do people get those?
You can attend the show and win some.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So those are prizes. That's a cool. I have one of those shirts, and I want to point out that it's nice quality cotton. It's not scratchy. It seems like a good quality. It's comfy, and it's a rare long sleeve T-shirt. You don't usually get long sleeve T-shirts. That's a killer.
Yes, and we do give some away, but there's some there to buy if you want to purchase a shirt as well, in short or long sleeve. So
okay, good.
They're great shirts, and they're courtesy of our friends at Luca B Sign and Apparel Company. I don't know if you remember Luca B, Bradley J. Back in those early days of BCN when we worked there, Fast Signs
I
became
remember
a
that.
trend. Remember
Yeah.
Sergio
Yeah.
Fast Signs?
Yeah.
Well, he attributes much of his success to BCN because we helped him promote the business. He was our official sign maker of WBCN, and then he went on his own. Shauna, his wife, and Sergio Jr. opened a place called Luca B Sign and Apparel, and they provided these shirts in exchange for promotional announcements. So
Oh, there you go. I got to say, the beautiful shirts. Luca B. So you can come up with a design, and Luca B will make it.
they make great all kinds of apparel and hats, shirts, mittens. I mean, whatever you wear, they have, and they're in Taunton, and they're so good, and they're sticklers for details. So
Okay.
we love Luca B. So thank you.
You give all the prizes too. What are some of the prizes, and where do they come from?
Yes, well, I'm going to pick up the prizes tomorrow afternoon at my buddy Bob Walsh's store, Cheap Thrills Music and More in Dedham, and a great used record store filled to the brim with vinyl. And since day one, even before we started Come Together, Bob has always supplied original Beatles vinyl to all of the events that we do, and he does those in exchange for promotional announcements, and I plug them on the radio show. And you know what? People go into the store and they say, "Hey, I heard Chachi talking about you. It's a great store." And you can really get some real vintage, not only Beatles, but all kinds of stuff for great prices. And Bob is like a encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to vinyl from all kinds of bands. So we will have original Beatles vinyl, courtesy of Cheap Thrills Music in Dedham.
Okay. And I just what since you mentioned it, you do the radio show. Is it still Breakfast with the Beatles, even though it's not at noon in the morning? Sometimes you're on prime time now.
No, I'm on in the morning. Well, I'm on 10 a.m. to noon on Sundays.
Okay.
6 a.m. to 8 on Saturdays on WUMB in Boston, 91.9 FM.
Right.
New Hampshire and Maine, Sundays 10 to noon on Seacoast Oldies, 92.1 and 97.1. So in 3 New England states. And it's Breakfast with the Beatles, yes.
Breakfast with the Beatles.
That is correct. And,
All right.
one of the things, John, a couple of weeks ago, Bradley was with us. We did a great May Pang event at City Winery. And did I send you the picture of you with May in front of the Rolls Royce, Bradley? Did I send that? I did.
Very good. It was a rare, nice photo of me. It's one of my favorites. It's really good. She's 72 years old, and she looks like, I don't know, she's got the heart of a teenager, and she's so fantastic. She could be all stuck up, but she's so regular.
Yes.
I love her.
Very nice woman. And just this past Sunday, she had a 2-page spread in the New York Post and the Sunday Post. So that was great. She was in People magazine. The movie is The Lost Weekend, a love story. Next Thursday night, April 13th, I'm emceeing the screening with John at the Cinema Deluxe at Gillette Stadium next Thursday night.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. And this is all part of seems almost like a resurgence, a groundswell of love for the Beatles, for which Come Together, your monthly things are part of. And this month, we celebrate the Billboard success of the Beatles, right?
That's right. You know what? It's not just Billboard. It's all over the world. All these Beatle records that I got growing up, all number ones. So look at this one. This is an original. I Want to Hold Your Hand, 1964. This is Do You Want to Know a Secret? So yeah, we are celebrating the Beatles' top one, number one hits, plus all the other positions they dominated on the Billboard charts. Because Bradley, the week of April 4th, 1964, the Beatles held the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top 5 slots on the charts, plus 7 more in the top 100, plus 2 Beatles novelty songs in the top 100. So
that's crazy. That has to be a record, right?
It is.
First time that someone ever did that.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about that during our show on Monday. So,
Beatles is a weird name, named after an insect. Is that? And I think, was there an insect crazed? Did they name themselves because of the crickets?
That is correct. You know, John was his best friend was Stu Sutcliffe, who was in the band at the time, and they were trying to come up with a name for the band. And you are correct. Stu said to John, "Well, you know, you have Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Let's do like the Beatles. Maybe that's it." And then John said, "Yes, but we'll spell it Beat." Thus, they became the Beatles. They were the Silver Beatles for a little while,
Right.
but yes, it was because of Buddy Holly. And the side note, you know, the Hollies, the band, the Hollies.
Yeah.
Great band, right?
Long, cool woman in a black dress.
That's right. You know how they got their name?
Probably something to do with Buddy Holly.
They loved Buddy Holly, so they called themselves the Hollies. So
I did not know that. I love that name origin stuff. I love it.
yeah, yeah.
So what? Kind of give us a picture of how it's going to go on Monday. What happens, and then what happens next, and what happens next, and there's a musical guest.
John, would you like to do that?
Yeah. So we have Wayne Cabral as a musical guest. Right? Is that what you asked?
Yes, he is. Yeah, Wayne Cabral from the Onos, a great New England Beatles tribute band. They are really super talented. Wayne's a founding member, and Wayne will be there solo performing his favorite Beatle tracks.
I want to shout out to the last show and Sal Baglio. I was blown away by the skill and I don't know how to describe it. A transfixing performance by Sal Baglio doing these Beatles songs. He was so crazy good.
And you know, Billy, he hasn't changed, you know, because let's go back to the days where we go to the channel to see the Stompers. He was like one of the greatest frontmen. And all these years later, his voice is still great, and he still performs all kinds of configurations with like John Butcher Axis, Alan Estes, and he performs with all different people. But he has a solo tour, and he has his band, the Amplifier Heads. So he's still a compelling artist to this day. And man, he had the whole audience transfixed, right, John?
It was great. It was great. And I think that's what people have told us that they like about this show. That's a little bit of everything for everyone. There's live music, there's magic, there's rare films, we give away prizes, there's food, there's wine. And we try to make it so if you know nothing about the Beatles, you'll have a good time. And if you know everything about the Beatles, you'll still have a good time. So we try to make it kind of this multimedia experience, a little bit of everything for everyone. And that's what people have told us why they enjoy going to the show. We've had some people attend the show that didn't even know the Beatles' names, and they said they loved the show because they learned about it. Then we have people that know just even the movie show that we did in in March. They knew every line to every movie. They knew every story that that had to do with the Beatles, and they still have a good time as well. So that's what we try to do. People really enjoy it.
Right. If you haven't been, I wondered before I went, well, how's this going to go? Is it just people standing on stage? And I was like, what's going to happen? When I got there, I don't know who organizes the flow of it. Maybe it's you, John. Maybe you do it together. But it is it moves right along. It carries you along when you're sitting there in the wonderful environment of the City Winery. You get carried along by the pace and the flow and the images. It is a multimedia experience. If you just go and do it, and don't worry about it. What is it? How does it go? Relax and float downstream, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's right. And you know, one of the things that John, me, and my wife Stephanie, who's the executive producer, we try to keep the cost down for people. We know that economics right now are pretty tough with how everything is so expensive. So we do a low dose show on purpose because we don't want anything to hold you back.
Right.
And it's easily accessible by the tea. So we do a low dose show and you have a great dinner because the menu at the City Winery is fantastic. Drinks are fantastic. And so we want you to have a really fun time, but we're not going to stick you with, a $70 ticket price.
Yeah. Oh no. Right. In these days of sticker shock for Bruce Springsteen, it's the opposite of that. This is like, oh wow, this is excellent. I had a good time, and it was crazy affordable.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm a big public transportation guy, and you can get there so easily. You can drive in central location near Haymarket, and there are parking garages there. But if taking the tea is so excellent. Then you can have a couple drinks and not sweat it. I love that stuff.
Well,
What,
I will tell
anything
you.
else? Go
I
ahead,
will
Mike.
tell you,
Go.
Bradley. You've been I've said this before. You've been our number one supporter since we started. This was something that happened back in September. We never imagined that we'd be here now in April, still doing it. We're booked every month till December, and I expect it will go into the next year as well. And you've been a staunch supporter, and that's why we love having you on stage. I remember the first time we introduced you you were in the audience, and you got a huge round of applause. And that's another thing for this show. It's kind of a reunion every show. You don't know who's going to show up, but many BCN types,
Oh yeah, that's right.
BCN people have shown up, and one night Albert O was there, you were there,
Carter
Adam
was there.
Klein, Carter Allen was there, David Bieber. So, and then people want to meet you because you're a big part of their life back in the 80s and 90s on WBCN.
Right.
So
And some
you get
FNX people showed up,
FNX.
and Ernie Bach showed up.
That's right. The great Ernie
It's
Bach.
true. You never know who's going to show up. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the mayor showed up someday.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we love doing it. And you know what? The Beatles had an amazing track record when it came to Billboard charts. They had 62 titles in the top 100 between 64 and 1970. 20 number one hits, and there's the number one album right there on vinyl, John.
Wow.
That was John's entree into the Beatles. John's a little bit younger than me.
I got the CD of that, and I fell in love with the Beatles. The first track was "Love Me Do," and I said, this is a little bit unique. And then the last track on there is "A Long and Winding Road," if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And so it kind of goes through their whole career. It's two completely different bands. If you really think about it, they had, I think, 4 different bands from my perspective, though all their music was so different. But
So, John, what was the context of your discovery? Like, where were you at in your life? How old were you? What were you doing? And what was it that about the context of your life at the time and the Beatles that matched up so that the puzzle pieces fit and you loved them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was in 2nd grade, and I received the 1 CD for Christmas, and I got this little stereo as well. I remember it was in my room, and I would play it every day. And I said, wow, this is a really, really great band. And I think growing up, I wasn't a hardcore fan like I am now, but I think what got me back into them was in high school, my friend told me about the whole, is Paul McCartney dead thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, from a person that does magic and secrets and mystery and stuff like that, I was like, ooh, this is interesting. So I think I just watched interviews of them, and I just felt more and more. I kind of got into the black hole, and ever since I just fell in love with everything about them. And then obviously someone one day said, you should maybe do a magic trick around the Beatles because so many stories about them.
True.
So I said, sure. So one day I told a story about the Beatles, literally what we do now for our show, but it was one trick during my regular act, and people came up to me afterwards and say, wow, that was really cool. You should do another one. And then she did another one. And then I just ended up building my own show called Magic with the Beatles. And then Chachi and I started collaborating, and now we're here.
So you had your Beatles magic thing before you met Chachi. How did you come to know Chachi? I suppose it's hard not to know Chachi.
Yeah, I think everyone knows Chachi. Everyone knows Chachi. And but I went to a few of his events, and I said, wow, this could be a cool collaboration. So I reached out to him, asked if he wanted to do something together, and we talked, and we built the show. So
we had a nice dinner at a lunch at the Stockyard, Steph and me and John, and we were like, there's something here, and I enjoy being on stage with John. I think we kind of have a Lennon-McCartney thing going on stage. He's a lot of fun. We do a lot of ad-libbing. The 2 shows are never alike. Each show is different, which is one of the great compliments we get. And because we don't want to do the same show every month. So every month's a different subject. In September, it was the anniversary of the Beatles at the Boston Garden. We did John Lennon's birthday in October, the White Album, November, Holiday in December. So every show's different, different prizes every show. So it's a lot of fun being on stage with John. And, and he says, someday you by being around me all the time, you're going to figure out these tricks, and I'll never figure out these tricks. And I don't want to. I have so much fun just watching it. I'm just like an audience member when he does these tricks. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, I do want to give a huge shout out to my other partner in crime, Jonathan Vale, who's our associate producer and helps me consult the magic and things like that. And he's, I think Bradley, you know John Vale, and he's a very, very talented magician as well. He has his own residency in Cambridge at the Lily Pad. And so I credit a lot of the tricks to him as well. So I want to give a shout out to him.
You're still working with Malcolm, the Patriots receiver?
Yeah,
you're on the road.
Yeah, Malcolm Mitchell. He used to be on the Patriots. He was actually the first rookie to ever catch a pass from Tom Brady in a Super Bowl, and he was on exactly when they came back from 28-3, and I think that was in 2017, the big comeback. Malcolm played a huge role in that game, and so yeah, I toured the country with him. I just got back from Atlanta last week, and I'm always traveling with him. We do events together. We promote literacy and things like that. So if you share the Magic Foundation is his organization. So yeah.
Okay, I want to say one more thing before we go, and then we do have an audience question. Folks, this thing is bigger than the Beatles and even bigger than the Magic. There's a lot of love in the room, and I think everybody senses that the common denominator is the Beatles, but in a more deeply, a common denominator is, hey, we're here and there are humans here and we're digging each other. This is not online. This is old school. This is pretty intimate. And you leave there feeling good. It's not just about the Beatles. You just leave there feeling better about everything. That's my take on the whole thing. It's bigger than the Beatles, which is big. Now Barton asks, oh no, wait. First we have this kind of random question. Did the Beatles and the Beach Boys have a little rivalry back in the 60s?
Yeah, and I think more for the Beach Boys because the Beatles really mixed things up when they came on the scene. The Beach Boys were already on the scene, Capitol Records artists. But boy, when the Beatles came in, it changed the landscape on every level, including the Beach Boys. They had to really step up their game. And they did with albums like Pet Sounds. And so there was a bit of a rivalry, but there was a lot of influence. You know, the Beatles saw what Pet Sounds was like, and that influenced them, and a little bit vice versa. But yeah, there was definitely a rivalry between the Beach Boys and the Beatles.
And one more. Good afternoon, guys. Just have a question. How long was the concert when the Beatles played in the Boston Garden?
About 30 minutes, 30 minutes, and they were in and out of there.
Yeah.
And I remember that I wasn't at the show, but I lived in Cambridge, not far from Fresh Pond Parkway, and the Beatles arrived at Hanscom Air Force Base, and 3:00 in the morning, drove down Storrow Drive, and right near my house. I was sleeping, but there they were, and they were in and out. They did the concert, and then they left. They flew out in the middle of the night, flew in the middle of the night, and flew out in the middle of the night.
And that was every show that we do, we cover a different topic of the Beatles. So the one on Monday, this upcoming Monday, we're talking about all their Billboard hits. But the one in September last year, we talked about when the Beatles came to Boston in the Garden, which was really cool that there are people in our audience that were actually there at the concert back in 1964. So they came up and they were talking about their experiences, and we showed some clips of the concert at the Garden. And when people say, "Oh, you know, it was so loud you can't even hear the Beatles playing," that was true. Like, you watch the film clip, you can only see them move, and you could barely even hear them playing. So
yeah, and the word was that was the loudest show on their tour at that time, playing the Boston Garden. So yeah, they played Boston twice, at Boston Garden and then at Suffolk Downs.
Suffolk Downs, boom! Somebody just said.
There you go, Rudolph. Thank you for chiming in. You get credit for that.
So Barton says, "See you guys at the next Scott XIO," and what that means is show. That was a typo. See you at the next show, and we will see you definitely at the next show. And the next show is just a few days, like Monday. It is Monday.
Yes.
At 7. It's fun to get there a little early.
And again,
you never know who you're going to see. I personally love seeing listeners from both BCN and WBZ that I never got to meet in person, and they all say, "Hey, Bradley J, you should have a party." Blah blah blah. Well, this is kind of that. If you ever
Yep.
wanted to say hi to me, I would love it. And the same with Chachi and same with John.
Yeah, and
I'm sure.
Bradley's, pretty much, our official MC. We love Bradley. He's at every show. We're blessed that he's able to do that. But the other thing is, you said earlier that there's a whole Beatle wave going on. Well, that is
Seems like
true.
it.
Monday night we're at City Winery. Tuesday night, John, Stephanie, my lovely bride, and me, we're going out to Worcester at the Hanover Theater because Rain, a Beatles tribute's playing. And then on Thursday next week, we're going to the Gillette Stadium Cinema there, and we're going to MC the Lost Weekend. So there's 3 Beatle events next week, kicking off ours at the first. And Rain is playing in several venues, Lynn Auditorium.
Yeah.
But we're going to the one at the Hanover Theater, Boston, Bob. So we'll be at the Hanover Theater in Worcester. But yeah, Rain, dear friends of ours, and they always come to town, and we love when they're here. So
Okay.
good guys.
John Duke Logan and Chachi Lippert, it's always a pleasure. It's always so much fun, even just doing these things. I bleeping love them. I love doing these. So, folks,
Likewise.
anybody that you think might have even a mild interest in this kind of event, share this broadcast to them. Send it to them, and I will certainly do that. And I want to see you all at this event. It's so much fun. Hey, how's it going? How's it going? Blah blah blah. It's old school, which is what I love. So thanks, guys.
And I will just say that if you want to get a really clearer picture of what the show's all about, go to cometogetherproductions.com because John put together a fantastic website.
Oh, wow.
that goes into all of that. You'll be able to see what happens.
Yep. So we have a little sneak peek of the show there, and you can get the tickets for all our shows there as well. Yeah, am I doing that right? Come together.
Yeah, it looks perfect.
ComeTogetherProductions.com is all the info, the show info, ticket info, get a sneak peek of the show. If you want to collaborate, if you want us to come to your event, let us know. But we'll be at City Winery Boston on Monday.
So don't put it off. Go if you have questions about what it's like. Go there right now. ComeTogetherProductions.com. Okay, I want to leave something unsaid for next time. So I'll talk to you soon, We'll see you Monday night, everybody.
Thank you, Bradley.
Peace and love.
Bye, Chachi. Bye, JDL. We'll talk to you.